In today's video, I delete the tank. Next, I take a trip to countryside. I search for needed part. I bend a reinforcements beam using hairdryer. Additionally, I use electric drill to twist some wires. And finally, I pour water into a clear box. Hello fellow modelers! I recently built a British Comet tank, and while researching reference materials, I came across the stunning image of a Comet tank crossing a Bailey Bridge in Pontoon configuration. This inspired me to create a diorama featuring this iconic piece of British engineering. The Bailey Bridge is known for its straightforward yet effective truss design, supported by a nominal number of floats. After looking into various references for its structure, I decided to craft a detailed model of the bridge in 72 scale, using Blender 3D editor. Since the pontoon configuration varies slightly from the traditional bridge design, I am especially grateful to my Patreons for sharing their reference blueprints. This helped to design a bridge's connection mechanism, which includes a movable joint that allows it to adapt smoothly to water surface. I tried to meticulously design all the components and make the bridge as authentic as possible within terms to scale and printing quality. It's probably possible to print the whole bridge from one piece, but I struggled with the supports and printing quality. As a result, I decided to develop my first kit, along with a printable diorama. During my research, I discovered that the several vintage bridges are still standing throughout the countryside. I was pleasantly surprised to find a charming little Bailey Bridge situated only 20 kilometers from my home. And since I have all the components, I also designed 3 additional configurations. The files include the front, back and middle parts, so you can copy them as many times as you need to create a long bridge model. With these bridges, you can make an interesting and detailed dioramas. More than 5,000 bridges were built during World War II, so there are no limits to creativity. You can create something really wild like this. Now, let's move on to building the bridge. I conducted a test assemble, which highlighted several design flaws. While the design looked great on the computer, the printing version didn't hold up quite as well. After fixing the errors, I printed all the new construction components using Prusa SL1 and larger pontoon floats and road boards on Lego Saturn IV, which has a larger printing volume. I started using a 0.6mm supports, which allows easier separation, and also a good trick is to remove the supports before curing. The resin is more flexible, which prevents damaging the main part elements. The sidewalk supports are delicate, so I must be careful with them. I hollow out the floats using a printing slicer, which significantly reduces the resin consumption. I designed and printed pre-cut parts for diorama configuration. It is easier and cleaner than cutting all later. I tried to simplify the assemble, but even so the diorama kit has approximately 100 parts. So you will enjoy assemble and primarily understand Bailey Bridge construction. I am cleaning residual resin supports with a soft sandpaper. It is handy to use water to prevent the formation of dust particles. And for hardly accessible areas, the soft metal files from Anis are perfect. Cleaning all the parts took quite a bit of time, which is one of the downsides of 3D printing. I had some troubles achieving a straight shape with my test assemble, so I decided to incorporate connection pins from the actual bridge design. These pins help maintain the correct shape and positioning. Now I'm starting on the assemble of the side struts. They should fit well, but the holes for the pins could be filled with leftover resin or might have been closed due to longer curing time. Therefore, I suggest using a 0.6mm drill bit to clean out all the holes. You can notice 2 types of the sides. One has reinforcements, and the other, located behind the bridge pontoon connection, is without it. The pins are tiny, so handy is to use sharp tweezers for more comfortable manipulation. Once the pin is in the place, secure it with a small amount of thin superglue. This is one side of the bridge. You can notice that the pins made the bridge nicely narrow. Given the diorama is angled, the sides are not symmetrical. If any parts warp during the curing process, you can gently hit them with a hairdryer to help straighten them out. You will also notice small raised guide protrusions. They are intended for the road supports, so make sure they are oriented correctly. The main beams of the structure are cut for easier assembly and printing. The rest of the beams are already on the side supports with fixed clamps. The road supports have two versions. Parts with guide pins are located on the sides and 3 flat parts are in the middle. Place the road supports between the main guide pins. Pre-cut parts are for the ends. I only forgot to print the main beams, so I cut them to the same size as the rest. The wooden road fits into the extrusions on the sides. These small road segments are meant for a middle pontoon configuration. I failed to print a one road section, so I used a spare part and cut the road shape to match the supports. Now let's move on struts on the sidewalk. I opt to make them separate because they are quite fragile and can break easily. Therefore I suggest printing more than you need. I designed two types of floats. One is open and the other is closed. The assembly is simpler this time, as it contains only 3 parts. It remains to attach the sidewalk, and that is all for the printed parts. At the bottom of the bridge are tension wires. The thickness of the wire is only 0.5 mm. They should be in each length. The sidewalk for infantry has also one detail, and that is railing. First, I tried to make it from lead wire, but it looks too flat. Instead, I attach 3 thin copper wires to electric drill and slowly twist them together. Now it looks more like a rope. With this step, the bridge is completely done, so let's correct printing errors and paint it. The grey primer nicely reveals printing layers and imperfections. For filling, I use Tamiya Basic Putty. It is designed for plastic, but you can use it for minor repairs on resin as well. My printer has the problem printing 0.3 mm holes, so I must drill them through. I am cleaning the road surface with a soft sanding sponge, because there are pronounced printing layers. I filled with the body some pattern lines, so it is handy to recreate them with a razor saw. I smoothed surface, so now I can move forward and unify the whole bridge with a black primer. It will create basic shading. The Bailey bridge was like a Lego, so the components were assembled more than once, usually. I could use some weathering on them. So the next step is to apply the rust shade. The road was made from wooden planks. I use masking tape to prevent applying the wood shade to metal parts. although I lack a proper documentation of the floats, they were likely made from wood. During World War II, metal was a scarce resource, so if something could be made from wood, it was. Therefore I am spraying the wood shade also on the floats. To achieve a worn appearance, I am using a layer of chipping varnish. The chipping varnish applied to the base layer can be reactivated with water, making it easier for the top layer peel off. You can expect many scratches on the road from town tracks, so I am also applying chipping on the wood planks. The bridge has typical khaki olive green shade. I am spraying the floats of a deep green, just to make them slightly different from the bridge shade. The water allows remove top layer. You can use a toothpick or this special brush with hard fibers. For the road scratch texture, I use a sponge sandpaper. The printed parts are flat and do not have a wooden texture, therefore you must play a bit with a paintbrush. If you moisten the surface before applying acrylic paint, you can achieve a smooth blend similar to the oil paint. This technique is particularly effective when you're trying to lighten the surface a bit. However, for deep wood texture and shading, the oil paint is far easier to use. Try to make some planks darker than others to achieve a nice inconsistent look. And dark wash for deep shading. The floats could be slightly damaged from manipulation and transportation. I apply chipping varnish, which allows to removal of the top layer easily. The floats were sectioned from 3 parts, so we can make the center more damaged than the sides. And some dirt accumulated on the waterline. I use enamel paint which can be smoothed or wiped out with an enamel thinner. Now the funny part, water. I am creating a casting frame from the spare pieces of a plexiglass. This material is strong, holds its shape and is easy to cut. I only need a sharp blade. After a few cuts from both sides, you can easily break it. I am gluing parts and filling the holes with a superglue. It's handy to make a test to see if the form has any leaks. I couldn't resist testing the floats on the water, and to my delight, they were seems to functioning perfectly. I would suggest attaching the floats directly to the base, but I wanted to pour a thicker layer of resin, so I built a smaller pillars to keep the floats elevated. Even though the plexiglass is smooth material, the resin will stick to it. Therefore, it's important to apply a soft layer of resin separator. It will allow more comfortable frame split. I'm securing the floats with a superglue and intentionally left holes on the underside to prevent them from rising to the resin surface. I happen to have an old 2-component clear resin that had passed its expiration date. So I figure out to use it all up and apply a thicker layer. To darken the water, I mix in a brown pigment. However, after spilling it, I found the color unappealing and mismatched with the river's natural hue. To rectify that, I added a few drops of a green and blue Vallejo acrylic paint to give it more pleasing bluish tint. I didn't capture it on the camera because I needed to work quickly. This is the final shade. The resin is not too transparent after shade correction, but it does not matter because the layer is relatively thin and there is no river bottom. The problem with the resin casting is significant capillarity on the edges. I am cutting the edge with a knife to make it more uniform. The resin layer is a bit too even for my taste. I want to introduce more motion and texture. I watched a video about creating waves using a grinder, but it looks really messy. So I prefer making small waves using a Vallejo water texture. This white acrylic texture is easy to apply with a brush, is odorless and primarily cleaner. It is white when you apply it, but after 2 days it will become transparent. Then, to smooth the brush strokes, I am applying Vallejo acrylic water. Now I can finally attach the bridge itself. I use white acrylic paint, which nicely brights out the waves nicely. I found this lovely wooden plank in my stash. I only cut it to needed dimensions, smoothed the surface with a sandpaper and applied brown mordant. During resin shade correction, I accidentally poured resin into one float. I found the effect nice, so I left it as it was. I like these happy accidents. There might be some residual water left over from rain, or perhaps there are few leaks. I only unified the rest of the surface with a matte varnish. You can notice that the whole bridge was fixed in its position with the anchors. So it is a nice touch to add a few ropes. There is one thing I still need to do. I can attach a soldier crossing a bridge on the sidewalk. I discovered this lovely set of British figures from Zvezda in my stash. While they do not have the same level of details as the resin figures, I think they will look great once I shade them properly. The black and white technique nicely highlights the details and cloth folds. I use acrylic paints because they dry quickly. I am applying a thin paint layer first and then highlighting edges and folds. The figure has the perfect pose for the bridge. It has its left hand opened and it fits nicely into railing wire. He is a British fellow, so he walks on the left side. With this detail in place, the diorama is now complete. The final outcome turned out even better than I had expected. I hope you find this unconventional diorama enjoyable, and I encourage you to give it a try as well. You can find the printable files of the Bailey Bridge on my Cult 3D page, or feel free to support this design directly on my Patreon. Thank you for watching, and see you next time!